Hello, everybody. Welcome to the radio show. It's always welcome to be back here and cancel. There we go. Life and radio show. Life and more radio show. Send the message to my wife. Send it to you. Listen to this while you sleep. LOL. It's just me. It's life, man. It's life. We're gonna do some chill vibes night, huh? Well, what I learned the other day was the audio for the lo-fi was a little low. Man, what's going on, everybody? It's been like a hot day since I've been intoxicated and down here streaming. I thought the last one, up until we went through an album of I Am the Abomination, was pretty good. We got a cigar in hand, drink in hand. We got a drink in other hand. Yeah, crack open a cold one. Life's going on. Oh, I think a good topic about today, which has been a topic in the last 2 days, not specifically with someone that I know, but I talked about it with my boss a little bit, and I brought it up with my wife and some other. But it's relationships. Let's talk about relationships, and it's the importance of the relationship between the parents of children. So what sparked this was there's a couple Reddit threads on like r/millennials talking about people who've been married for 10 years, together for 15 total, 20 and then 10 or whatever. People have been together for a long time. They end up being divorced for whatever reason. And usually a lot of it comes down to that during the process of providing for your children and your family, you fall out of love with the person you're with because you're stressed out all the time. You're doing all this stuff. And I get it. I'm 100%. I get it. It's a lot, and that the reason I bring up my boss is because my boss talked about his first marriage, and it was like that. He was going through his career, grinding out stuff, getting more pay, bettering his family, hanging out with his kids and his wife, but he was never fully present in a way that built a relationship with his wife that they had interaction and love and connection during doing things. Where I'd say for like me specifically with my wife, we do a lot of activities together that bring meeting, whether it's going on a walk, going to a park, doing this stuff, having conversations, whether it's deep or not deep or whatever. I always make it a point to do something with her, love of my life type of stuff. And when I look at his relationship with his first wife and his relationship with his kids are great. And he had a much harder life growing up than I do. But it doesn't, like a lot of people end up when they have kids. There's 3 options from what I've seen. It is you don't care about anybody but yourself, so you neglect your relationship with your husband or wife or your kids. You choose your husband over your kids. Or wife over your kids, or you choose your kids over your spouse. There's not really, and the people who do it the correct way, I would say, where you choose you prioritize your spouse, but still give attention to your kids and do what you can for them and do all that stuff that you need to do. Those stories aren't on Reddit because those are probably the successful stories. You're usually reading the ones that have failed. Picking a big hit off the cigarella right there. My point being is, and as a continuation of the last conversation we've had about attacking problems, this problem is kind of like a preset, it's a pre-existing problem of like your relationship will get difficult. What are you gonna do about it? And that isn't a specific you thing. The partner needs to be on board. That's a conversation you need to have with your spouse. And I think many people don't do that. I think people have kids unready or get married unready, whatever. You're not prepared for the onslaught of lack of time, especially as you get older. It's one thing when you're doing it and you're doing this shit, being wild like that, having kids or married or whatever at like 20. You still got time. You still got like less. You might be in college still or something, like, or one of you is. Making work on a dumb job where your schedule's fine. But then you get into real life. Not every job's remote. Not everyone has a skill set to make $100K. You know, that's kind of where we're at. You know, I work Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. What do I don't even know. We talked about it last stream. If you were here for the last stream, that there's a struggle with that. You've limited time, and that's what my wife and I were talking about today. It's like there's a limited time. You don't get this. You really only get to see your kids 2 days a week. Oh my God, I only get to see you 2 days a week. I get to see my kids at certain points, and when they get older, and then we're in the stage of parenting and like trying to groom's not the right word, but guide them into like a personality and get them into a thought process to be good people. Yeah, we're gonna have less time for each other. But I make it a point to at least have an hour with my wife, or of us just doing stuff. Like today, Thursdays are our like pre-cleaning days. So I do part of the pre-cleaning of our deep clean. So I vacuum, I swept, I've done the dishes. We got bottles prepped for tomorrow for the baby, and we did the fold of the laundry that we had. That way on Saturday or Sunday when we do like the secondary cleaning, because you always are cleaning. Like don't get it twisted. Once you own a house, you have kids, you're just cleaning. You have to segment the cleaning so you have time. So Wednesday we might, like, she did a little laundry so we can do that in the pre-cleaning day, to where that we can just fold it, put it away. And then I did all this cleaning, the dishes, the sweeping, all that stuff today. So we have time to sit there and watch. We watched like most of Paddington and a little bit of another movie, and we're able to hang out. Some nights we play board games, some nights we do other stuff, but it's prioritizing the time at the end of the night to have with your loved one that is your partner in life. And if you neglect them for everything else, you will lose them. And I think losing them is a very important, a very bad thing. Not that you can't get a divorce with a person and then have a good life with them, but if I've made my commitment to you, specifically to be married to you, to include you in my life, to be my other partner, you need to be included with all this stuff. I need to give you time of day, and then vice versa. Not everyone's like that, and I know that. And I would say 90% of the time, males don't think like I do. I'm a completely different enigma of a person. Like, just for me personally, like, you know, I get in a habit of, I come down, I get off work, I'm here. If I don't go to the gym or I'm working out through stuff, I'm doing dishes. My wife goes up and feeds the baby because she breastfeeds. We put the other one down. He's going to bed. I make a tea for her. I take it up there because she likes tea. I put it on the nightstand while she's doing that, but while I'm doing the dishes. And like, she always is like crying about that because it's like, she's like, oh, you take too much for me. And I'm like, it's just tea, dude. But from her side of her family, like her dad, and then, you know, by proxy, her brother, who is like her dad, in their respective relationships, their wives and or girlfriend, they have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what, like, you know, they don't ever care about them that way. They just kind of live. They expect the woman to do everything. They just come home from work and just expect dinner type of stuff and all that jazz. And, you know, the conversation like 2 weeks ago, it was like, I always text my wife like, hey, I'm leaving work, I'm going to the gym, and I always text before I go into the sauna, because I'm in the sauna for like 15 to 18 minutes. Like, I try to really gain that sauna time. And I just sit there, I listen to music, or maybe I'll watch, like the other day I was watching Dragon Ball, and I was in the sauna, and that was a good time. But it's more of just like to give you an idea, like, hey, I'm done with my workout, there's 18 minutes of sauna, I gotta get dressed, it'll take me 20 minutes to get back home, whatever. Just give you like a proxy of time of like where I could be if I don't need to stop and get something. And then, you know, her mom and, you know, her brother's girlfriend slash fiance is like, oh, we never know when these people are coming home. They never tell us anything. They just show up, and they work like right where they live. They work like 10 feet from their houses, and their spouses don't know anything. And I think I'm like, well, dude, just like fucking text somebody, dude. It's like I'm such a contrast to what she's been around, that I think the normal stuff that I do, that I think is a generic normal person dude thing, or whatever, a normal relationship thing, is like a tidy thing, like, oh my gosh, praise the Lord, you told me you're coming home, or you give attention to me. But I think it also comes down to like, I think sometimes people marry or they get in relationships for the lack of they need something. But you know, in our relationship, it's been like 10 years here soon. Actually, it's been 10 years now. This is our 10th year of being together, and 5 years married, 5 years not married. Some people marry or they get in a relationship because they feel like they're lacking something. And I think at the beginning of ours, it was more of like a mutual common ground of we wanted a certain thing. We don't know how long this is going to last, but it's grown into like such a loving relationship. And I feel so connected to my wife. It's in a way that, you know, why wouldn't I want to hang out with you? I love you. I love every part of you. I want to be with you at all times. Like when I'm at work, I'm thinking, I'm like, I wish I could just like not be at work and be with you. Because I wish I had enough, like $1 billion, so we could just hang out at home and do nothing and play tennis and pickleball and shit like that, and go do trips and do all this stuff. You know, provide for my family in a way that keeps them happy. Heck, if you asked me like 10 years ago if I would have ever been in a marriage or a condo or had kids, I said no way. But you know, you find somebody sometimes that just kind of like is so important to you. They're like, okay, I'll play this game, and I will give in to these things because I love you so much. And I love my kids, and I love my wife, and I wouldn't do it any way differently. I know there's probably a universe and the multitude of universities that is doing it differently, and maybe probably having a better life per se. But that's always in context of what you consume as a better life. I'm like, maybe, you know, what if they have more money and all that stuff? Yeah, but do they have relationships? Do they have friends? Do they do all this stuff? Like, you know, are they in solitude and sad? You know, stuff like that. I mean, it always comes down to things like that. My point being is that relationships are, they're hard. When you have kids, they're even harder to still do the relationship part. And I'm not even saying like the date night stuff. You don't have to like there was this, you don't have to always have a date night without your kids. I mean, you can have a date night with your kids and still like love your wife and kiss them and stuff. I mean, when they get a little older, yeah, you gotta have to kind of figure it out a little bit. But you ain't. I'm telling you right now. We go to a Texas Roadhouse when my kids are like 16 and 13, and like it's a date night for me and my wife, and I'm gonna be all lovey-dovey and like giving her, I'm making out hardcore, and they'd be like, "Ew, you're embarrassing us." And I'm like, and I'm gonna go even deeper on that. I'm going harder core on that. I'm like, "What, you guys don't like your parents loving each other? What? You'd be lucky we even giving ourselves kisses, you know?" It's always, you know, as that type of stuff. I'm looking forward to that moment. But it's a balance of many things. It's time management, it's relationship management, it's emotional management. Emotional management. Man, that was a tough sentence while smoking a cigar, apparently. But it's not that it's undoable, it's just that it is hard. There's like, and there's outside stressors to like a relationship. There is your job, your bills. There's so many other things to think about. Your friendships. And I would say I run myself a little thin. I'm constantly always doing something, talking to friends, talking to like my wife and, you know, other people, trying to schedule things. We do our stuff for football on Sundays and we hang out. I'm in our Discord, I'm chatting, and I've taken a break this couple weeks, but then I've been doing the stream, and, you know, at some point you're going to get burnt out, but, and I don't think everyone can do this like long term, but you need to be able to have that core group of people that you have a relationship with outside of your wife and family that can let you relax in a way that you can't. I think I have a good relationship with my wife where I could relax with her in the same way I relax with my friends, but we really don't talk about stuff like that. I don't ever bring up like real hard conversations with my friends. I don't think it's like I think a hangout's kind of the wrong way to do that. If we're hanging out and playing video games or just watching football as a group, you never want to turn to somebody and go like, well, how do you feel? Are you depressed? No, how are you going to fix that? Or, oh, you haven't had whatever and for whatever. Like, what are you going to do about that? Like, what's your goal in the next 5 years? I think it's more of an interpersonal, that's like a solo conversation outside of the group. If you're a good enough friend with that person, then that's when you have that conversation. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that statement. So, my point with that is that all relationships are going to go through the same type of struggles with, at some point when you add in kids, there's a focus of like, either A, I have to be the breadwinner and I have to pay all the bills, and that's like 90%, 95% of my mindset. And then you get home from work and you're like, oh, I just need something to unwind me because I'm stressed out from everything falling apart. And then you have your spouse, whereas like all I've been doing is working with the kids. I'm tight. I can't unwind the same way, but I want someone to love with me and like feel me and like just talk with me and be on that level. And then sometimes that doesn't always work out. And then that's kind of where the divide starts. And that just it starts off small, but as it grows and it compounds, we had this conversation the other day, the nuance, the stocks. We are stocks, human emotional stocks. These relationships are stocks. They compound the interest, and it makes it, the longer you wait to address it, the worse it becomes, to a point where it's not fixable, it's not redeemable, and you have to understand that you have made the mistake and move on. What you can do early on, if you stumble upon this stream and you're a youth in a relationship like that, is to put the effort in. It's the same thing of like the grind set mentality of capitalism, of like I work I work my main job, a second job, and a hustle. Your second job is your family, and you have to put that time in for them. You have to do things. You have to stay up later, wake up earlier, do things you don't want to do, and then be present in times where you don't want to be present. You have to be there. You have to be an active listener. You have to be there to be with your wife or your husband or whatever, and cherish that. And really, what comes down to it is like if you are truly friends, and I think that's kind of the difference, is like when you really marry or have that connection where you're marrying or joining a relationship to be the same thing as marriage. With your best friend, it's a little easier to do things together. Like my wife and I don't even know why I'm saying that. It's like Morgan. Morgan's her name. Morgan and I, we don't have everything in common, but we like board games. So we have nights where we play board games. Like I don't ask her to play. I mean, I've had her play Street Fighter or Tekken once, but I'm not forcing her to play games. I'm not forcing her to stream anymore. Or do podcasts and have in-depth conversations that can make us money. We do that just on our own time, and then when we get days where we can play board games and do stuff and really have like a hangout session, it's great to have that with somebody you love, like emotionally, sexually, relationshipally. I don't know if that's a word, but it's like a complete like, wow, this is the person I married. I'm so happy. The way this lo-fi cuts between songs is like legitimately ridiculous. Like the last 6 songs have been hard cuts. It's like just fucking cut it to a way that it doesn't do that. That's all I'm saying. But it's important. It's in what is important is you're putting the effort in, and it's like true effort. And I think relationships that have that will last longer than the ones that pretend to have it. And I'm not saying our relationship's going to last the test of time. I hope it does. That's the goal. The goal is to, be married to the single person that I love until one of us die. And then if she dies or if I die, not remarry. I'm not remarrying. Dude, fuck relationships, dude. I'm not dating again. Assuming my wife dies when we're like 65, I'm cruising the last 20 years of my life playing Call of Duty or like RuneScape or something. But I think the devotion to the relationship is an important thing, and it's not easy. I mean, I don't want to like sit here and pretend like, oh, I'm saying this as like someone who's like, oh, everything's hunky dory. You know, we've lived in the same place for the last 8 years. We're looking to move, and like houses are expensive. I'm about to do something really dumb and buy a house while we live in a condo and have 2 mortgages for a hot month or 2 while we fix up the condo to sell, to hopefully make enough money to pay off the condo, which shouldn't be that big of a deal. We have a pretty low loan on it, and then whatever's left goes to like our mortgage that we have. But the stress is surmountable. It is unlimited stress. Any time at work that I feel like I'm fucking up, if I fuck up hard enough, everything that we're working towards falls apart, you know? And on top of that, I want to come home and I have to be in a good mood, hang out with my wife, hang out with my kids, deal with their shit, sleep. Like this week I've slept 5 hours because none of our kids want to sleep right now. One's 3, one's like 6 months. That's just the way it goes. Like on Sunday I got 3 hours. Monday I got maybe 5. Last night I got 6. No, that was Tuesday. Tuesday I got 6. Wednesday I got, I think Wednesday I got about 6 too. Maybe a little under, like 5.5. Tonight, probably not a lot because I'm sitting here doing this. But I don't have to take anyone to preschool tomorrow. My wife's taking them to her mom's. So Friday is like my day where I get to just like, if I want to stay up late and relax and do this and unwind and de-stress having a stream, I could. But that's not the case normally. So there's a lot of like variables to every situation, all that stuff. So like a blanket statement of, oh, you just try harder with your relationship, bro, it'll get better. And it's not always so simple. There's different ways to attack it. Like I got an ad for this thing called Aria, whatever. It's like a subscription box for intimacy. And it's like sex products and sex toys and shit like that to like reconnect and revigorate your sex life and whatever, because that's a big thing. Part of the reason a lot of these Reddit threads are like, they're like, hey, we don't have sex anymore, I want to leave my wife or husband, they're focusing on the work or the kids too much, how do we redo this, I'm just done with it, I want to cheat or whatever, or I did cheat, blah blah blah. And I got an ad for it one time and I popped it up. I tried to fill out a little bit of it and then I didn't because I was like, I don't feel like putting this information in. But then I got a bunch of ads on Facebook, and I was like, you know, whatever. We'll sign up. We'll look at what it is. And then I got to the point where it made me want to pay, and it was like $40 a month for a box. I'm like, well, what's in the box? You're not even telling me. It says you're just like, I just clicked a bunch of stuff and said like sexual preferences shit. And you're like, okay, now pay us $40 a month, and we'll send you a box. And I'm like, well, what's in the box? I looked it up on Reddit. So basically, what it is it's like so it's like sex toys that are themed, like whether it's like BDSM or hot wax or blindfolds. The weirdest thing, and is that so you give the information to them, like what is like your name, the number of your partner, and what happens is they text them with whatever name you give them, whether it's like your actual name or a nickname that they know, and then they do all the sexual foreplay texts leading up to when the box arrives. And I was like, oh, that's really gross. And I told my wife about that. I was like, you know, I thought the idea of like a subscription box was kind of fun, whatever. $40 is a lot. But then it's like they text you. And they're doing the texting. It's not me. It's like they are texting you as me, doing all the groundwork to like leading up to a sexual, Niagara Falls type moment. And then my wife was like, well, that's kind of annoying, because then I'd be like, oh, I love those texts you sent me, and like the man who didn't care is like, what? I think it like serves a purpose for people who aren't intimate, but like, you know, my wife and I, you know, we send texts like that relatively often. But the way that the app and the ads like subscribe, it's like try to get you to subscribe. They don't even talk about that part. So, very strange. My tangent about that is that, like, you know, if you feel like you're in a spot where it's lost, there are tools there to help you. There are apps and subscriptions you can pay for to help you. I don't necessarily think you have to do that, but I feel like if you're like rebuilding from like ground zero after like a life of, you know, maybe you have like 10 years where you've been working with the kids, you've been stressed, and you just haven't had time for each other. And there is no evidence of an affair on either side. So, yeah, do something like that that like kind of sparks it. Or like even, you know, people always talk about like one night a week a date night, you know, or every 2 weeks a date night. It's not super feasible, but I also like whenever we do date nights, like, you know, even if we have our kids, I'm still having a good time with my wife. So I don't really need them to not be there. I like them to not be there like the day, like the night of not having kids is great, but you know, the date night part of like dinner or whatever, or, you know, whatever we're doing for the date, them being there's not a big deal. I think my point I was saying earlier about me being different is that, like, I think I accept life in a way that I flow well with, like, the obstacles that come my way. So I don't ever feel so... Other people would be very upset, like, if they were like, oh, I'm playing a date night, and let's say you don't have a babysitter, and then your date night's at, like, a restaurant, it's busy, your kids are there, they're whining, and then you're just aggravated all the time. It's like, I just wanted to be me and my wife, or whatever. But in my mindset, it's like, I'm just happy to be here with you. I love you so much. You're very pretty. And our kids are being assholes right now. It sucks, but I mean, but isn't the chaos that is life that kind of balances out the meanderness of like the normal days? So, you know, it's okay. Plus, our hellion kids are probably going to raise hell later on, and it's just kind of what it is. I mean, we haven't had an issue like that, but I mean, we've had a couple of date nights with just them. We had one like 2 weeks ago where it was just like the little baby, and that was fine. Everyone loved her where we're at. Like, she was very awake and alert, and everyone was like, "Oh, your baby's so pretty." Very cute, but I think getting hung up on that stuff is a lot of poo-pooing or like whatever. It's like it's just kind of dumb to get hung up on that. But again, that's in my philosophy, my mindset versus someone else who thinks differently, handles the pressures of life differently, and kind of what's going on differently. But my core thread, my common thing last stream was like there's overarching positivity. You have to find the positives in the situations you're given. And this one, the overarching theme is you have to find a way to find a balance with your life, whether it is with your spouse, with your kids, and with your work, and make it work for you. It doesn't always work out immediately, but you have to think of the long-term goals of like, what is this relationship to me? What are our goals as a family, as you know, as husband and wife, or wife and wife, or husband and husband, whatever your relationship goals. You have to think about 10 years down the line, like, what do we want to be? Where do we want to be? What do we want to be doing? And how do I want to see you? How do I want to love you? And you have to take the steps, the little incremental steps, which are the hanging out after work and being sleep deprived the next day, just to hang out with them and get time in with them and love on them. And then do the date nights that maybe don't work out super well, but, you know, in the heart of hearts, you're like, I'm happy we did this. Oh, at the end of that one, huh? Got one more in me. I'm gonna let the lo-fi play. I'll be right back. Ugh, we're back. At least for a little bit. I think sometimes, though, you just have to realize where you're at, and you have to just make the decision. Like, do I at this point, at this path, this fork in my life, do I pick the road where it is harder, and I fix it, and I do everything right to get the thing that I want, and I'm tired and I'm stressed all the time, but at the end of the day, I'm happy? Or you take the lesser route, as always what they say in the scripture and all this other stories and stuff, is where you take the easy way, and you get, though life gets hard and your relationship gets hard, you just quit it and you give it up, you just go do whatever, and then you feel unfulfilled because you've never been tried, you've never been through the trials of your life, and that's the thing with Stoicism, is it's or even Seneca's, if you've never this music kind of sucks. If you never give it all your effort to do something, and let's say fail, and experience that pain, if all you've ever done is quit early to escape the feeling of failing, you've never experienced all of life. And if you do not experience all of life, have you lived fully? Not that I wish heartbreak on anybody, but there's heartbreak in other things besides your relationship. Heartbreak in your career, your aspirations, your dreams. You do these things, you would do all this stuff to maybe not get far enough, to break you down and pull you back to reality. And then you have to restart again. And then you have a better appreciation for what you are going to achieve, what you're going to get, or try for even more. Give it even more effort than last time. Give it even more thought. Practice even better than what you were doing beforehand to get to a spot where instead of failing, you succeed. Yeah. Sometimes it really does just be like that. You have no choice in the matter. Your options are limited, and everything you feel like you do is wrong. But you gotta think, though. Like, sometimes you gotta look back and do everything you've done and really think, like, what would I have changed? And that's very different on each person. Someone who's like started drugs early, maybe became an addict and ruined their life, they would probably say, I would never take the drug. Other people who maybe got in a relationship that was bad that ruined their life, or took a job that ruined their life. Oh, I got a gift. All right, text Craig. I didn't expect a Steam. I want to see how much it is. Super Mega. Okay. Okay. I was so confused. Yeah, $10 for Super Mega Baseball 4 is a good deal, so I think that's fine. I don't know. I think a lot of this stream and the previous streams is more of like a, there's an overarching theme of, there is some advice here, but everything's always different for each relationship and personality and person. But I think the goal is to live a life worth living. But I think, there's so many things. And as someone who deals with a lot of this stress, usually at the end of the night with some alcohol and some music, as we've seen with the streams that we've done that we've deleted. I mean, let's play. Hold on. We'll play a song. We played the Rocky version of it like a few nights ago. If not the other night specifically. But we'll play the non-rock version of it. Because I think it hits home more so with like the meaning of it than it does the rock version. Before me for dead, I'm always was fine, but now get over my head. Now you can take it later instead. It could drag me down before I take a dive. At first, with the weight of all this pressure, I was fine, but now I feel like I've buried myself alive. And that is kind of like a young to old. Like when you're young, you feel invincible. You can handle everything, all these tasks. And as it gets older, as you get older, as the risks of failing become more real, it becomes a way that you think, oh fuck, this is too much. Oh shit, I've put myself in a spot where, I'm jeopardizing my future, my family, and all this stuff. And then you get to a point where it's like, well, no, I can't fuck up, so I have to. And then you think about like everything you're doing and making sure you're doing it right, and it becomes this added stress layer that just puts too much. It's a lot on your mind, and then that like it trickles down to your relationships, and like whether it's your family or your kids. So when things go wrong, your first thought is like, "Fuck, don't do that," because you're like in work. You're like, nothing can go wrong, because if anything goes wrong, everything falls apart. And I think owning up to the fact that life is like that, no matter what, whatever position you're in, if anything goes wrong, everything can fall apart. And accepting that, like I have, is that not that you don't try in what you're doing, not that you don't put effort into it, but that you can do everything you can. But at the end of the day, there's always an outside force that can just fuck up everything you're doing. It could be on the relationship side. It could be on the kids side. It could be an injury. It could be health. It could be the job. It could be the job market. It could be the whole country. It could be a global catastrophe like COVID was. And it forced everything to change. For better or for worse. All you can do, my camera's not on, but I'm pointing at you. The only thing that you can do is put the effort in to do the best you can and put forth the effort in all aspects of your life. You put it in your relationship with your wife, your husband, you put it in with your kids, you put it with your job, you put it with your hobbies, you put it with your friends. Don't half-ass anything. Put the effort in that is deserved with those friends and those family members and that job and whatever. And be fulfilled in the fact that you're doing everything in your power to succeed. And if it does not work, if the universe has decided that you alone, amongst others, so not alone, shall suffer the fate of despair, well, there's not much more you can really do. All you can do is fight back. All you can do is fight forward. The rock bottom is the rock bottom. You just got to go up from there. It's easy to say from a spot where you're not in the worst spot possible. And, there's a lot of things that factor into those spots. A lot of those are outside forces. Some of it's addiction to drugs. Some of it's, government policies that, maybe fuck up. Or, certain small towns that their whole economy relied on coal and the coal mines got shut down for whatever reason, and everything falls apart. There's always something that is going to be fighting against you and your progress. But, all you can do is be prepared and do everything you can in your power to fulfill yourself in those aspects of life. Love your family, love your friends, and try to do the best of your job. And remember to take care of yourself, and that every day is a new day, and you are living to live the good life.
Well, anyway, this is therefore to say, transformation of human consciousness through meditation is frustrated. So long as we think of it in terms of something that I myself can bring about by some kind of wangle, by some sort of gimmick. Because you see, that leads to endless games of spiritual one-upmanship and of guru competitions. Of my guru is more effective than your guru. My yoga's faster than your yoga. I'm more aware of myself than you are. I'm humbler than you are. I'm sorrier for my sins than you are. I love you more than you love me. There is interminable goings on about which people fight and wonder whether they're a little bit more evolved than somebody else and so on. All that can just fall away. And then we get this strange feeling that we have never had, you see, in our lives, except occasionally by accident, some people get a glimpse that we are no longer this poor little stranger and afraid in a world it never made, but that you are this universe, and you are creating it at every moment. Because you see, it starts now. It didn't begin in the past. There was no past. See, if the universe began in the past, when that happened, it was now. See? Well, it's still now. And the universe is still beginning now, and it's trailing off like the wake of a ship from now. And the wake of the ship fades out, so does the past. You can look back there to explain things, but the explanation disappears. You'll never find it there. Things are not explained by the past. They're explained by what happens now. Cheer up. You can't blame anyone else for the kind of world you're in. And if you know, you see, that I, in the sense of the person, the front, the ego, it really doesn't exist, then it won't go to your head too badly if you wake up and discover that you're God. That's the birth of responsibility. Because otherwise, you can always look over your shoulder and say, well, I'm the way I am because my mother dropped me. And she dropped me because she was neurotic because her mother dropped her. And away we go back to Adam and Eve, or to a disappearing monkey or something. We never get at it.
However selfishly you love them, because of the pleasant sensations they give to you, still, it is somebody else that you love. And as you inquire into this, as you follow honestly your own selfishness, many interesting transformations begin to come about it. One of the most interesting transformations, being directly and honestly selfish in the same way that, for example, cats are, is that you stop deceiving people. A great deal of damage is done in practical human relations by saying that you love people when what you mean is that you ought to. And you don't really. You give the wrong impression. And people begin to expect things of you which you're never going to come through with. Go deeply into the nature of selfishness. What
Maybe I don't. Maybe it's an appalling mess. But certainly the things I do love, that I want from a selfish point of view, when I really think about them, they're all something else. That's in a way outside me. Now we saw if there is a reciprocity. A total mutual interdependence between what we call the self and what we call the other. And so, if you are perfectly honest about loving yourself, and you don't pull any punches, you don't pretend that you are anything other than exactly what you are, healing may be called, Jung says, a religious problem. In the sphere of social or national relations, the state of suffering may be civil war, and this state is to be cured by the Christian virtue of forgiveness and love of one's enemies. That which we recommend with the conviction of good Christians is applicable to external situations. We must also apply inwardly in the treatment of neurosis. This is why modern man has heard enough about guilt and sin. He is sorely beset by his own bad conscience, and wants rather to know how he is to reconcile himself with his own nature, how he is to love the enemy in his own heart and call the wolf his brother.
Oh man, this guy like legitimately just ripped off.
How
He just pulled some fucking shit from Akira, dude. Akira the Dawn won't be very excited about that. I thought the first part of that was pretty good, and then they just steal Akira's shit.
I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. And you would, of course, be able to alter your time sense and slip, say, 75 years of subjective time into 8 hours of sleep. You would, I suppose, start out by fulfilling all your wishes. You could design for yourself what would be the most ecstatic life. Love affairs, banquets, dancing girls, wonderful journeys, love affairs, banquets, dancing girls, wonderful journeys, gardens, music beyond belief. Music beyond belief. Music
Love Alan
beyond
Watts,
belief.
baby.
I wonder.
Akira's versions aren't really my favorite because, like, sometimes I feel like it misses the point of the lecture that he has, but sometimes they're good. Sometimes they hit.
Was asleep.
There's one earlier that I thought was really good. Alan Watts lo-fi beats for an hour.
I was discussing
Ooh, this is a good one.
the plausibility
The audio, the vocal audio
of
is great.
two essential features of the philosophy of illusion. The question that we have to decide whether to take life seriously or not. That is to say, whether the plot is comic or tragic. And if it's tragic, you see, must we say that it's ultimately tragic? And the question of who are you? And are we to say that I myself, right down at root, am just a little kind of jerk of some kind that really has nothing to do with this cosmos, but just arises in it and is here on sufferance for a short period, and then absolutely nothing follows, you see. Or the alternative to that is what I really am, the same as the whole thing, that is, the works, the hit, or whatever you want to call it, Brahman, God, the Tao, the great void, the Buddha nature, I don't care, the self, anything, any name you want. And whereas that attitude, you can look at it from various points of view in judging it. You can say it's wishful thinking. You can say that it's insufferable pride. But the point of the matter is, as I tried to show, any other way of looking at things is kind of schizoid. It looks at human beings as if they arrived in this world like a bunch of birds on the branches of a barren tree. They just got settled there, you know, they don't belong. The sense of being strangers and pilgrims from another domain altogether. Well, where is this other domain? And how does it relate to this one? Are they separate? I showed you that even when we say that two domains are the poles apart.
Oh, that sounded pretty good. I'll have to listen to that later tonight when I go to bed. It's always good to reset, I think, with Alan Watts. Life gets a little too serious sometimes. My work lock screen is a quote from Alan Watts. Man suffers only because they take serious what the gods made for fun. And to circle back into everything that we talked about, I mean, that's kind of it. Is the people who have the worst of lives take it so seriously that everything is going to fall apart, everything's going to go to ruin, and then they ruin everything in their own relationship, their own family, because it's not playing out the way that they want it to. Whereas you have to have the mindset of like, this might be the only life I have, if not, maybe more, but this is what I've been dealt. I'm going to do what I can with it. And at the end of the day, it makes no difference whether we succeed or we fail. So why not? Why not just put the effort in that we want to put in and give it what we can and see what happens? And you would say to that, well, if it doesn't matter, why put the effort in? And it's like, well, because, you know, why not? Nothing matters. Why would I just sit here and wither away? If nothing mattered, why not give it a shot? Why not see what can come out of this? See, why not see how far we could go with that mentality of the progression and prosperity, and see how great our life could be? Or we could stay in whatever we're at, whatever spot we are, and it doesn't matter. You can stay stagnant and still live and die and be at the end of time reaching our judgment, whatever that is, by whoever that is, if there is any at all. Or you could be like, well, it's probably going to suck. Might as well give it my best shot and see what I get out of it. And how much fun can we really have with this life? In our career, in our hobbies, in our friends, in our family, the things we enjoy, what we dive into with our time. Or you can sit there and just watch Netflix, or you can watch YouTube or whatever. All day, every day, doing nothing. And wither away. But the same end happens. So, on the other side, you know, no matter what, we both die. The accomplishments we have made, everything we have done fades away. On paper, we end up just being like the same guy, same person who did nothing. So why put in the effort? Why put in the time? Why even give a rat's ass and make it further than just living alive? Well, because individual experience, I think, is there, and, you know, as we are alive, the experiences we get to experience can drastically change from person to person. But there's one thing that'll be the same if you just stay there and do nothing. You'll experience nothing. You'll never progress. You'll just sit there, taking in everybody else's shit, and be like, oh, that's cool, that's bad, that's cool, that's bad, that's cool, that's bad. Or, with a lack of a better term, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and go do something. And depending on your situation, you might be able to do something that's more freedom giving than myself, who has children and responsibilities. If you have none, if you have no responsibilities, no bills, no debt, no job, nothing, what is holding you back from doing what you want to do? Oh, it's money? You can't make any money somehow? Work a job for a little bit, get the money, go do it. You have nothing behind you gating you away from experiencing the experience of life. To end the night on a more somber note of that, of like, yeah, life can be shit. You take what you get. You know, we quote some Pirates of the Caribbean, take what you can, give nothing back. Just because it's perceived to be the most interesting and the most awesome life does not mean the life that you could live, that you think you want to live, is not that going to be that exaggerant, that exorbitant, that fun. Sometimes the most fun lives are the most mundane. Hanging out with your friends once a week, every other weekend for football or board game night, having experiences where you can laugh, cry and giggle and just have those moments, I think are worth more than having the biggest mansion, the biggest yard, the biggest pool or pond that can host the biggest parties with people who don't give a rat's ass about you. So, involve the people in your lives that care about you, and the people who do care about you, care about them, and involve them in your life. Think about them dearly. Love them as much as you can. And say hi when you get a chance. I think with that, we're going to end it. I may stay up a little later, rock out some songs, but I think that's a great way to end the night. Your relationships are more important than you may think. And they're not as hard as you would think to interact with the people that you are with. But just give them an honest effort, dude. Or dudette. Or whatever you are. Whoever's listening. Effort equals progress. If you give no effort, there will be no progress. You can tell that's a dollar cigarette that falls apart before it even gets like halfway to the end of the stream. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching. I'll see you next time I get a chance to stream.